Hey guys, Axelmith here with another video. I don't know if you can tell, but I really like Star Wars. And Star Wars games seem to be kind of my thing lately, so today I'm going to look at a game I've been meaning to cover for a while now, but hadn't found the time to do so with, the Bad Batch reviews and the Force Unleashed stuff right after. Go check those out if you're interested at all. But anyway, that game would be Jedi Fallen Order for the PS4. And apparently that's the worst version of this game or something like that. Whatever. Frame rate issues, textures are worse. I don't doubt these claims, but they are worth bringing up. I did notice some of these during my run though, but I'll talk about that later. Also, I just want to throw this out here real quick. This is your spoiler warning. This game is basically what one would call a Metroidvania-style game. For those who don't know, it's a platformer-style game with a heavy focus on exploration. They're usually pretty linear and lead you to dead ends to get some sort of ability, then you have to usually backtrack to a previous point to use the new ability to proceed to new areas. So when you find yourself lost, it usually means you missed something. But this isn't just a regular old platformer like your Super Mario, nor is this some sort of Zelda clone. This game takes inspirations from a handful of different games, which sounds weird, but it all just comes together and makes something that makes sense and feels good to play. Like, the one I notice its similarity to is Uncharted. Exploration in this game is so fun. Even though rewards for doing so might not be worth it to some, you usually find different colored outfits for you, your ship, or your companion droid BD-1. Also ponchos. Lots and lots of ponchos. To be fair, they're not all the same. Some look like they're made of plastic, and others actually look pretty handmade, especially for, a video game. There are also a bunch of lightsaber parts to be found, but I'll talk about that in a bit. A lot of these areas are just so interesting, and all the locations never have the confusing sense of, wait, have I been here before? Because not only does the level design sort of take you along the metaphorical road, but the environments are just that ironed out. Most of the time. The design is not perfect as one would expect. There were times when it looked like I could go somewhere and climb something only to have an invisible wall in my way. I really don't like it when video games do that, but when you're in a giant open area like Kashyyyk and you have a set path thought out for the player, you do have to do something so that the player won't go off that path and die or something. Still not something I really like, though. I feel like it's the year of our Lord 2019, now 2022. I feel like we can find better ways than just invisible walls. But I have to mention that this game just looks great. Battlefront 2 might have the record for the best looking Star Wars game thus far, but I feel this title is right behind it. It looks crazy good, even on the base PS4 I used. I can only imagine what this piece of absolute art looks like in 4K. Moving on to more gameplay, I found the combat of this game to be quite fun. I originally thought it would be a Force Unleashed hack and slash, without the crazy force powers of course. The type of gameplay that mostly didn't take much thinking to complete a given task, but rewarded you with some awesome looking moves if you timed your button presses accurately. I can assure you, if you attempt to play it like that, you will fail time and time again. This game wants you to play it the way it's supposed to be played, right? Weird. The combat uses this parrying system. Hey, where's parry? Blocking just before an attack hits you, then whacking at your opponent when their fatigue gauge runs out. But you also want to pay attention to your fatigue gauge because they can do the same to you as well. This somehow makes it feel like you're playing the original Star Wars in that fight between Ben and Vader. The slow, calculated swings, almost as if the weapon is really heavy. There was a problem I feel like could have been ironed out, though from the sounds of it, it sounds like it was done on purpose. I still feel like this should be fixed in any sequel this game gets or something. See, one of the things I've heard from plenty of different reviews of this game is that it's sort of a baby's first Dark Souls game, which to me is a horrifying thought. Even on normal, this game isn't a cakewalk. And in those games, what happens is that there's a purposeful lag between pressing the block button and your character actually doing the action. I personally can't confirm that, but that's what I have heard from the Souls games. And that's totally a thing that happens in Jedi Fallen Order. It takes a lot of time to get used to, but when you do, it just feels great. I recommend you play on the Jedi Knight difficulty. The parrying thing isn't nearly as strict, but you can still get a decent challenge out of the game still. To go along with this, there is also a skill tree you can upgrade. It's split into life, force, and combat categories. Life usually gives you more, well, life, obviously, but it also lets you recover from enemies faster and even gives you healing powers, I believe. When you kill enemies, you earn force points, sort of like EXP. When you earn 1 point, you can spend it on the respective force tree branches. But these can easily be taken away from you by dying, but can be regained by getting a hit on the enemy that did you in. But don't worry about losing the points forever because enemies can respawn. See, to access the tree, you have these Jedi meditation platforms, and there is also an option to meditate, which heals you fully, but also respawns all of the characters in the area. Force powers will make your abilities in the Force stronger, and lets you capture more enemies into your Force moves. So yeah, it doesn't quite get to Force Unleashed levels, but you can still do some pretty crazy prequel stuff. And finally, combat gives you more combos to use. Some of these were pretty cool to pull off, but at the same time, it almost runs into the same problem I had with the Force Unleashed, where I could try to pull off a combo, but you have to time the button presses exactly right or it just won't work, which is very irritating. If you will take a tip from me, I say go for life first. This will help you survive more, then go for your playstyle. There's a benefit for going for force powers and combat at the same time. While on the subject of combat, I remember fighting the final boss, and both of us being low on health and finally getting that last hit in, and just letting out a giant sigh of relief, my heart just beating and feeling so good about what just happened. I'm telling you, when you get somewhat of a grip on the combat, it's just so satisfying to pull off these moves, and even more so defeating harder enemies. Before I get into the story, I just wanted to mention this mechanic. Others don't seem to appreciate this because it has no real impact on the gameplay, but I just found it to be so freaking cool. In this game, you can customize your lightsaber from different preset pieces. Most of them I noticed were from Disney's Star Wars theme park in California, Galaxy's Edge, which is a pretty cool Easter egg to begin with, but it's just not something you get to see in Star Wars games very often, and it really does help make this adventure feel like your own, despite not being able to make your own character. Although, I feel like this game would also be better if you could make your own character, but whatever. Cal Kestis is a pretty mutual name anyway. Either way, I do hope this leads to something similar in future Star Wars games. Maybe one with an actual character customization. Seriously, Star Wars could benefit from a Breath of the Wild meets Skyrim type of game. But I digress. Story starts with Cal Kestis, a Jedi in hiding. Seriously, ex-Jedi are everywhere, and the Imperial Inquisitors get wind of your existence. So Cal needs to escape, and he does so with another ex-Jedi named Seer. From there, it's pretty much a quest to find the holocron that has a list of every Force-sensitive child known to the Jedi at the time. I believe they also said future-sensitive Jedi too, but that part sounds ridiculous, so I'm just going to ignore that part and pretend that it doesn't exist. If it does, even. It's been a while. And this quest leads you to 3 or 4 planets with the Inquisitors on your tail. You also get to meet some very interesting characters, including my favorite, the last Night Sister named Marin. I thought she was just so charming, I can't even explain why. I just loved her character, and I thought her and Cal really bounced off each other really well. Also in the middle of your quest, you get kidnapped, and have to fight a bunch of monsters for some reason. That was sort of weird. Like, I sort of remember how I got there. It was before I really understood what the combat was about, and I honestly don't know if this was a scripted event, or if you can bypass this altogether. If you have an answer for me, please, I'm begging you, tell me in the comments so I don't have to do this again ever. Thank you. It's a pretty small-scale adventure in terms of Star Wars, but hey, that's okay. It's entertaining, intriguing, and I generally like it, and I just feel like it pulls you in. Until Kestis decides to destroy the holocron at the very end. Like, what the heck, man? I get his reasoning, but it's still a slap in the face from the entire adventure I just went on. And I kinda hate it when games do that. And this is where I'm going to get into some negatives about this game. First, like I said before, I heard the base PS4 was supposedly the worst way of playing. Which, since I had so much fun with this version, it really piques my curiosity. But Jedi Fallen Order can be a very buggy game at the same time. Textures that pop in too late, character models had just disappeared from me time to time, and I ran into this glitch on planet Dathomir where I died, respawned, and it didn't load the world quite right, so I just kept falling to my doom through the ground I was standing on over and over and over and over again. I had to actually restart the game to end this glitch. Also, just look at this mess. I have no idea why this is happening. But I'm also not the only one to run into this glitch. Visually, it looks funny, but the concept is just so ridiculous. Like, he'd just be cutting everything, and like, why you're running out with your lightsaber out... well, that sounded better in my head. But none of this actually makes this a horrible game that should be avoided. In fact, I feel like it's quite the opposite. I feel like this game should be played despite these bugs and glitches. In a world where the original Force Unleashed doesn't exist, I think this would have probably been my favorite Star Wars game, period. Needless to say, this is a great game from my point of view. I will concede that it's not for everyone. This game will test your patience and put your skills on trial for trying to take over the Senate, I swear. But it's my humble opinion that it's worth it. What did you think of this game? Also, let me know down in the comments. Please blast that like button and ignite that subscribe button for more content like this. And, sir, the Jedi's gotten through. Ah! And I will see you later.